Okay, so I'll start again. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for inviting me to this very first meeting after 2 years of not being able to meet face to face. It is super exciting for me also, and for Hytham. We've been talking about it, that being able to be with our members and with our colleagues, supporters of ICF and of coaching face to face. Being able to hear your questions, your opinions. This is what we love the most of our work, and this is what really makes ICF such a good organization. Thank you for the sponsorship of this event as well. And I think I'm gonna have to check with my marketing people, because when your bio starts with "she brings a wealth of experience," that ages me a little bit. So, without further ado, what I would like to use our presentation for is more of a background, really, for the conversation, for questions, for observations, for reactions. So please do take it as such. This presentation, the deck is going to be available to everybody as it is already in possession of our chapter leadership. So, you know, the last couple of years put quite a lot of changes into coaching, and some trends remained the same, some trends changed. So I just wanted to touch base on some basics of those changes. And if I only could make it, well. So what you may know that in 2020, we conducted our study with PricewaterhouseCoopers on global coaching market, and and then pandemic happened. So suddenly the study that was a snapshot of coaching at the beginning of 2020 was a history rather than what was coming. So what we've done with PwC, we conducted 2 more studies, one in July and the other one in January during the pandemic times, to see how things were changing. And these are the major findings from that particular study, and we were very, very happy to have PricewaterhouseCoopers being our partner on many studies, but this one in particular, to see really what our coaches say about the impact. And one of the major top line was the virtual nature of coaching. Many people, as you can see in this graph, now realize that virtual coaching is here to stay. In some parts of the world, virtual coaching was already a thing, while in others, especially the beginning stages of establishing agreement, building trust, meeting the client for the first time, was very important to have this face-to-face. In this first study that we've done in July, many of our colleagues and friends at ICF were panicking a little bit, because especially their corporate clients who were not used to virtual type of coaching, we're saying, let's just wait. Plus, remember, at this point, we all thought that it's going to be 2 months, 3 months, and it's going to be over with that COVID thing, right? And then, so many projects were put on hold, which created some anxiety in a coaching marketplace. But then the corporations realized that, in fact, this thing is gonna stay. So let's try to find ways of supporting people, especially that the pandemic brought a lot of tension and a lot of different kind of challenges to organizations. So one trend that right now is being observed pretty much all over the world, and in Middle East and Africa as well, is that the virtual coaching is here to stay. And also what is very interesting is that majority of coaches think that this is a good thing. This is a good thing because that would allow individuals to broaden their base, to work with people that maybe before they would not because of distance, and now it is possible. And also, especially in Middle East and Africa, as you can see, there is a even greater recognition of that, and also a recognition that it could have a very good impact on pricing. Because if you work in other markets, you may perhaps realize that the fees that are more appropriate there than in your hometown or home country. And The other observation was that during the pandemic, we observed that, before primarily organizational, business, leadership, executive coaching were on a rise. And now we ask our members, where do they go next? Do they shift their business a little bit? And as you can see, life vision and enhancement coaching started becoming more prevalent, even in organizational setting. What it means is that the executives who are working with our coaches say, yes, we're gonna talk about quarterly earnings next time. This time, let's talk about how can I be a better leader while I am also under a lot of stress caused by the pandemic. I have my family under stress. I have my kids not going to school. I am stressed out. I'm worried. How can I be a better leader in those circumstances? The other thing is that, especially now when a lot of teams are virtual, and this is for many organizations, it is a very new dynamic. Leading virtual teams is a very different story than leading the team that sits around the table like us today. So team coaching is becoming also one of the very significant trend in coaching. And you may know that ICF last year released the competencies for team coaching, and we're actually working on a specialty credential in team coaching as well. And finally, another trend which is close to my heart is that pro bono coaching in areas where it is possibly needed most, and for people who possibly would not be seeking coaching or being able to afford coaching, is also growing in popularity, and that's something that our coaches consider a trend for here to stay. Whoops. Still, there is every time we do the study with PwC, we ask our coaches what are the greatest obstacles to coaching profession to grow, and the list is typically pretty similar. However, this time the number one didn't change, and it is untrained individuals calling themselves coaches. And this is true for the globe, it is true for this region as well. But then global recession. With the pandemic, like what we're experiencing now, there is always that lingering thought, what if? What if there is another variant? What if there are some additional stressors that can put some heavy weight on the economy? So global recession is definitely on the mind of our coaches. And finally, the third one, lasting long-term impacts of the pandemic. Again, those data are the same for this region as for the rest of the world. So why is it important to even talk about those new observations? I wouldn't even call them trends. These are just changes that were necessitated and brought about by the pandemic. But what is important to see is that coaching works and coaching grows. So over the last about 5 to 6 years, the demand for professional coaching grew by 33% around the globe. And at the same time, number of managers and leaders using coaching skills grew by another 46%. That does not mean by any means that there is a shrinking market for professional coaches. What it means is that the marketplace is growing significantly, and also the approach to leadership is changing significantly. In organizations with strong coaching cultures, all three modalities of coaching are being used, or now I would even say 4. One being utilization of external coaches, utilization of internal coaches, should that modality exist, and then managers and leaders using coaching skills. The fourth one coming to play, of course, is now team coaching. So the plate, if you will, is getting bigger, and so actually it's good news again, because the awareness, which I'm going to talk about in a second, about professional coaching is growing, and with that, the demand and the market for coaches. That clicker doesn't like me. Oh, it does. So earlier this year, literally last couple of weeks, we released the 2022 Global Awareness Study, also conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers. For us, this is the 4th study. The first we conducted was in 2010. This time, this is a consumer study. So we are not asking coaches what they think. We're asking, PwC is asking the consumers, randomly picked consumers. We did it in 30 countries. This time in 17 languages, and we got the record responses from almost 31,000 individuals. So this data is based on that. The report is available for members at no cost on our website. But what we did find is that the awareness of coaching is growing. And is growing still really, really fast. Our first time, there is a saying about lawyers, that the good lawyer never asks the question that they don't know the answer to. Well, in 2010, we did ask the question, what is the awareness of coaching, having no idea what's gonna come back. It came back pretty positive with 51% then. So it was like, whew, okay. But since the awareness of coaching grew to 73%, and I have to qualify it. As I said, we had 30 countries in this sample this year. The very first one we've done, it was 20 countries. 16 countries were consistently present in each of the 4 studies. If we compare the data from those 16, the awareness of coaching since 2010 grew to 70%. That's unprecedented. We did ask our colleagues from PwC, they do these studies for many industries, for many organizations, and we asked them, have you seen something like that recently? And they said, no. This is one of the fastest growing profession if you judge it by the awareness. And I really very much encourage you to read the report. It's fascinating. It talks about different demographic groups by age, by location, urban versus rural, by the economic status, fully employed, student, retired. It's really quite fascinating, and I think that as a coach, you can find a lot of great information how to position yourself in a marketplace and how to use it to promote coaching and to share it with your prospective clients. It doesn't like me. It doesn't like me. Now it likes me. So why coaching works, right? What we find through different studies, we work very closely with PricewaterhouseCoopers, but we also have another very powerful research friend, and it's Human Capital Institute. We've been working with them primarily on research surrounding coaching in organizations. We did 5 studies with them, including the studies on just general building coaching cultures with and for millennials, internal coaching, and finally we did the study on coaching as it relates to change management initiatives. So all those studies point to the fact that the coaching is one of the best accelerators and supporters for change management. If you look into this research, also available on our website, you will see something very interesting. When you look at the list of offers in change management that are available to organizational leaders and how effective they are, you will see that the most offered is traditional classroom learning. When you look into what's most effective, coaching is on top, while it is almost on the bottom when you ask about the frequency of that service being offered. So it's a complete flip, if you will, and many organizations are paying keen attention to that. What this study also indicated, one of them, was frankly terrifying. And it was that because the demographic of the main workforce right now is getting younger and younger, and in many areas of the world even younger, and that would be here as well, then people step into their first managerial positions, and it's defined as managing other people, not necessarily managing projects. This study indicated that there is about 6 years gap between when this person actually steps into managerial position and when they are trained and prepared to do that. 6 years. Can you believe the drama and trauma that this person goes through, but also the organization not benefiting from a well-prepared leader in that sphere. So this is really super important to know. We already talked about the awareness of coaching growing. Again, if you look into this report I just referenced, younger people are much more aware about coaching and are much more willing to step into a coaching relationship. For many of us, again, I'm aging myself, I remember when coaching was considered more remedial. If you get a coach, that meant that there was something wrong that needed to be fixed. While now, especially for younger people, it is a badge of honor. It is a sign that the organization wants to invest in an individual and therefore offers coaching opportunity for that person. High potentials are often offered that support. In some organizations, it is not a bonus, it's a must that the person joining the organization receives coaching for at least first 3 to 6 months as onboarding tool. And again, the millennials in particular, and again, by 2025, they're going to be the greatest percentage of workforce around the globe. They are expecting coaching, again, as the regular side of their professional development, not anything special or especially not anything remedial. So when you think about why people engage in coaching, again, the list is being developed on the responses that we collect all the time from our members and other coaches. And it is great to see that a lot of those reasons why people engage in coaching, professional coaching, is exactly mimicking the traits of modern leadership. Right? It's better communication, it's self-esteem, it's inclusion, it's better listening, it's self-awareness. These are all, it's empathy. Again, something that we didn't hear probably even 10 years ago as traits of leadership, and now that's what's expected, and more importantly, that's what works. So the data between Middle East and Africa are not very different from the globe, and also when you think about the impact of coaching, it mimics pretty closely the reasons why people are engaging in coaching, which is great news again, because that indicates the return on investment in coaching. And I'm going to put a little caveat here, because at ICF, we developed a different measure. We call it a return on expectation. As many of you know, the reasons of engaging coaches in organizations is not necessarily directly linked to the earnings or to the bottom line. That could be better communication, it could be better teamwork. So it is sometimes difficult. There are some formulas, every single one can be disputed, of how to translate that impact to the actual financial gain. But when you think about considering, did this person, because of working with a coach, become a better communicator, became a better team leader, and so on, then that return on expectation is something very important, and again, something that could be very directly measured and eventually translated into better results for the organization. And that's what we know from a study with Human Capital Institute, is that organizations with strong coaching cultures do have better financial results. And it is because they enjoy much greater engagement of their workforce. As we hear just about every 3 years they do, Gallup does this study about engagement. This is really what's derailing the economies these days, because people are not engaged in what they do. And when they are not engaged, they could be, if they are neutral, that's half of a problem, but they could be detractors from the success of the organization. So gaining greater engagement of the workforce is something superbly important, and again, coaching seems to be very much helping with accomplishing that. And this is another really great outcome of this recent study, and it is the satisfaction with coaching. So when people were asked if they are satisfied with their engagement, those who, of course, participated in coaching relationships, very significant percentages, you can see, said that they were satisfied or very satisfied. And even this number is even greater in Middle East and Africa. And even more important, they are very likely to recommend coaching to their colleagues, families, friends. We call it a little bit of a ripple effect of coaching, and it's twofold. One is that an individual who is engaged in a coaching relationship almost innately starts picking up some of those skills. They start talking to their teams differently. They start listening a little bit differently. They are making decisions with a different lens. So that's one ripple effect. They almost, by default, become a little bit manager and leader using coaching skills. What's also important is that they do talk about coaching with their colleagues, friends, families, growing that awareness of professional coaching, and especially what it is and what it is not, because there is still a great confusion in the marketplace of what coaching is not. And this is another very important piece. Because standards in an unregulated profession, standards are very, very important. And based on this recent study, we found that individuals who worked with coaches that held a credential were much more satisfied with their outcomes compared to those who work with coaches without credentials. So this is, if no other good reason to think about the credential, and congratulations to all the credentialed coaches and those who are pursuing credential, it is that the satisfaction seems to be greater, and the study with PwC also indicated that people that hold credentials typically realize higher fees than those without. If you haven't seen this series, Experience Coaching, it is available on our website. These are just short 2-3 minute vignettes, and they are great stories. The stories told by the clients, not by coaches. Well, coaches play a role, but this is the story coming, and there are either stories at the personal level or professional, organizational level, and they are just all phenomenal testimonials. If sometimes we say that the picture is worth 1,000 words, well, those 2 minutes of little coaching videos could be very useful as well. And we have several examples from the region, right, Haitam?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so let's talk very briefly about the future, because we don't know, right? But many of you know that over the last couple of years, ICF really underwent a major transformation, which I think is very coachy of us, because we are about going into the future, right? We need to anticipate what's coming next, and even more so, what issues coaches and individuals, organizations, systems are facing that coaching can offer a solution to. So we identified 6 different areas within the marketplace that need attention. Of course, support to professional coaches so that they can be the best that they are in a marketplace, and promoting coaching in general. But then we already talked about the value and importance of credentials. But nothing happens unless we have a good coaching education. And again, it is either geared towards individual or organizational coaching or team coaching. And then there is the foundation. We talk about pro bono coaching and coaching in social progress, which is really gaining traction as well. So that's another aim of the ICF. The coaching in organizations, our new baby in a family, it's so important because, as we said, the fastest growing part of a spectrum of coaching is leaders and managers using coaching skills. Many organizations are intrigued by what they can become should they have coaching culture within. And we, as I said, we have tons of research, so we want to be able to translate it into some templates, into some tips, into some ideas, how that could come about for them and what are the benefits, but also, what's necessary for building coaching culture, which, as you can imagine, one line item is budget. So these are important conversations so that individuals and organizations that are planning on building their coaching cultures fully understand what's going to be asked of them. And finally, the thought leadership. Coaching is still evolving. I've been with ICF for 17 years, and I've seen so many changes in not only in a marketplace, but really with application of coaching. When I first started, there was no talk about internal coaching, let alone supervision or team coaching. There was very little talk about coaching being applicable, not just one-to-one situation. So we are evolving, and we want, as ICF, to have a very strong voice, not only observe and report, but influence. Influence because we are the largest organization for professional coaching, and our voice needs to matter. And it's really two-way street, how we can lead the evolution of a coaching profession, and also to determine what is the boundary and how far should we push that boundary, or will we be giving birth to something else that would be a new discipline, but it wouldn't be coaching anymore. So that's our new ecosystem. And you know that as far as the rigor of our credential, there is nothing that could really compare. We are very keenly working on obtaining the approval from the International Standards Organization for our credentialing program. There is a standard 17024, which applies to organizations issuing credentials to individuals, and we hope to obtain that accreditation, which would put us really light years ahead of any other coaching organization issuing credentials, and that's really super exciting. And So this is something that I think is important, how that evolution of coaching happened. It started with one-on-one. It started even in a little bit of a quiet, if not hush-hush circumstance. Then organizations started adopting coaching. And again, at first it was hush-hush. And then they started being very proud of it, saying, because of coaching program, we accomplished this, or we overcame that. And nothing like peer pressure, right? So when one organization talks about it, somebody says like, they know something we don't. Let's at least check what this coaching is all about. And then when you think about it, is that after organizations, for-profit organizations started utilizing coaching, then public sector started really paying keen attention. And right now, there are many countries where the government offers significant coaching programming to their employees, including developing a very significant numbers of internal coaches, building centers of excellence, and really bringing it to the different level. And finally, this is more recent phenomenon, but there are a lot of not-for-profit organizations and social progress organizations, economic development, global organizations that are having really significant coaching programs. United Nations has one, World Bank has one, African Development Bank has one, Special Olympics has one. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has one. So this is really acknowledgement that two things. One, that not-for-profit organizations are businesses, and they are. And second, that leadership in not-for-profit organizations need to be supported as much, if not more, than those in a for-profit, because they are becoming a very significant segment of the society and of the economy, for that matter. So as you can see, from one-to-one to multiple and right now we have coaching. We talk about the growing marketplace for coaches. This is why, because the application of coaching seems to be increasing just about every day. And I'm not gonna spend much time on this slide unless you have questions, but this is what we observe as things coming our way. This is what we at ICF are spending our time on. One is the use of technology and artificial intelligence in coaching. Right now, you would say that there is probably good half and half. Half of the people are scared of technology and AI, half of the people are excited about technology and AI. I have a news for you, it's already here. Okay, so we can be scared, but we can't just hide. So instead, let's befriend. And actually, ICF is working with several number of the platform providers because they're brilliant technology people and they don't know much about coaching. So those platforms are great, but they have to really reflect what's needed, and this is why we're working with them. And same with artificial intelligence. It's the same thing about just making sure that you know what it's going to be used for. And also what we know from other fields, technology typically is quicker than ethics of it. So we are also paying keen attention into the application of AI, collection of data, using the data, also what is the retention policies and all stuff like that. The other one, the micro-credentials. I mentioned the team coaching micro-credential. There are several others like internal coaches or coaches in organizational settings. Could be coaching supervision, it could be anything. But micro-credentials seem to be also adding to the credibility of the profession. So this is a trend that we started observing recently. Coaching for social progress, I just spoke about it, and it's not just not-for-profit organizations or those large economic development organizations. So many corporations right now do have corporate social responsibility programs, and in many areas of the world, this is the most awaited reporting per year, not quarterly earnings. It is because especially younger people, they pay attention to social responsibility, and they often make decisions of their participation that either as an employee and as a stakeholder or shareholder based on a social responsibility projects or programs being offered by the corporations. More organizations, as we said, are really paying attention into building coaching cultures. Last study we've done with HCI indicated that only about 17% of organizations that responded to the survey, there were about 550 organizations globally represented, small, medium, and very large size. Only 16 of them said that they would say that they have strong coaching culture. So there is a lot of room to improve that, which is, again, I think good news for us because again, our coaches can have access to the information that would allow them to support the organizations in building coaching cultures. As the profession grows, there is also greater scrutiny. Coaching is more prevalent, coaching is more mainstream, so that there is more talk about it and more application of it. So there is also an opportunity of greater conversation about the quality. So attention to standards and quality is definitely going up. Again, I mentioned our credentialing program having absolutely no competition at this point, which is great news. And it also leads towards ethics and regulation. As you know, coaching is unregulated, and the definition in that part of regulation is external, typically governmentally driven regulation of the profession. We like to call ourselves self-regulating, and this is why we have the Code of Ethics. This is why we have our ethical conduct review process, very powerful tool for the coach to share with their client. If you have concerns about my conduct, here's the way that you can actually check on me, if you will, and my conduct will be reviewed by my peers. And there may be consequences, and some very severe consequences to it. Our Code of Ethics is reviewed every 3 years to be reflective of the actual practice in the marketplace, and it is, as I said, guide as much to a coach as to a client, what to expect and what to, frankly, demand of their coaches. And finally, for all the coaches in the room, it is a big conversation about self-care. You may see that it's found its reflection in ICF new core competencies. Coaches are as prone to burnout as anybody else. And it is very important to take attention to a coach. We call it being fit for purpose. And it doesn't only mean being well trained and continuing to develop professionally, but also personally taking care, making sure that they can be a role model for many of their clients as well. So just a little last couple of slides of celebration, because we celebrated recently ICF passing 50,000 members around the globe. Actually, by now we're like what, 53. We are welcoming about 1,200 new members every month. Again, as I said, I've been with ICF for 17 years. When I started, we had 8,000 members. 8,000, and they were predominantly in US and Canada. And right now, we have less than 50% of our coaches in US and Canada, 47% to be exact. So, and every region of the world is actually growing with a similar proportion, which is fantastic. And also last year in November, we celebrated 40,000 of our credentialed holders, and by now we're about 44,000 because it's a really snowball effect. Right now, our credential starts becoming a must-to-have, permission to play, rather than nice-to-have, or, you know, which many times I get a question, because you may know that to hold an ICF credential, one does not have to be a member. And we get this question a lot. It's like, why not? Well, because of that, ICF credential is an industry credential. It's not organizational credential. And that's very important. And at the beginning, it was a little bit of a dicey proposition, but I think that we made the right decision. That right now about 20% of our credential holders are not members. However, they are still bound by the code of ethics and the same precautions as the member of the ICF. So that and we have members in over 150 countries. Which brings me to a foresight that our forefathers and mothers had to call ICF international from the very beginning, because they really had this great vision for coaching to be a global phenomenon, and they totally believed that it will. And my gosh, only so many years later, we are there, and I think that we don't see any sign of slowdown in the number of coaches. Again, something that you know, but many of the colleagues you talk to about coaching in ICF may not know. To be a member of ICF, one has to be a trained coach. It's not somebody who's interested in coaching. This is what chapters are doing such a great job in educating individuals who may be interested in coaching, but to be a member, one has to be trained. We are the only global organization that has that requirement. So by default of being an ICF member, one already is a little bit vetted, if you will, in the eye of the client. And the credential, again, we go through very rigorous process of updating our competencies, and we also are very keen on keeping up with the global standards for credentialing, not just credentialing in coaching. Yeah. Nope. So we are by far the largest community of professional coaches, and even right before we started the program, we're talking about the value of networking, value of having access to people all over the world. There are networks through, and Haitam knows more about it than I do. There are these networks of chapters. The chapter leaders can talk to anybody, anywhere, saying like, hey, I got that issue. Did somebody deal with it? Did it work? I'm trying this, I'm trying that. What can we do? Can you help us? So, and also for us as an organization, this is phenomenal, because we're seeing, of course, nuances and differences all over the world. We have the same core competencies, but sometimes there are cultural, of course, overlays and nuances that are very important. So we make sure that diversity and inclusion is this reflected in who we are as an organization and how we present coaching, and also in our ethics and in our core competencies. Something that is very useful, I think, and not everybody knows about it, is that ICF has this set of communities of practice. They are free to all the members, and they are just the peer groups, and some of them are as large as 700 people. So again, your best friends, if you like to join any of these organizations, to talk about what's on your mind. And again, phenomenal input for us as an organization about what's brewing, what's happening next, and again, how can we as an organization support you, coaches, to be better prepared to answer to some of these demands. And it doesn't like me again. Right now, there is a business development series happening. This is special program designed to help build the business, coaching business. What we observed, again, many studies point to it, that coaching is not much different than any business. Any person who starts their own business need to be prepared that the first 3 years will be tough. If you survive first 3 years, you have a chance. If you survive first 5, you're good to go. And this is very true for coaching as well. Many people come to coaching as their second profession. They may not realize what it takes to run a business because that side was run by somebody else within their organization. One study that we've done several years back suggests that a typical coach coaches about 30% of their time. The rest goes into marketing and running the business. That's tremendous. So what we're trying to do is to help coaches, exactly, be ready to run the business. We have 2 tracks this year. You still can sign up. A lot of it is pre-recorded. So there is a launch portion, which is for people somewhat new to coaching, and the other one is grow. So this is for more seasoned coaches who maybe want to go to a different level, or to change their specialty, or to expand their offer. Super exciting, very popular series as well. So take advantage of it if you can. And it doesn't like me either. It doesn't like me because this is time for questions. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me.